around how to successfully launch a Web2 business in the Web3 world with NFT. We could maybe indeed start by describing your company, what you do, and how actually your company is positioned to onboard Web2 businesses into the Web3 world. Let's begin with you, Lenny. Can you tell us a bit more about Logcast?
Thank you, Céline. Oh, wow. I just love to be in London so much. Every time I'm here, I get to collect the most incredible experiences. I actually would like to ask everyone else a question. If you could make a memory or an experience just like this one, live forever, would you do it? And would you trade that experience with other people? At Logcast, we believe the next generation of social media is not about sharing content, but it's actually about sharing experiences. So we have built a platform that allows you to mint your memories and experiences as NFTs, and a marketplace that lets you trade them with your friends. We do this through our own tech, which we call NFMs, or non-fungible memories. We've been building this tech for 2 years, and our mobile app has been live in beta for 1 year. We're based out of Stockholm, Sweden, and we have users in more than 60 countries around the world now. I'm so excited to share more with you, and our team is super ambitious, actually. We set out as a team to solve the biggest problem that humans have. We only have one life. But if you could get any experience you want in the world, if you could access that, would it be a problem anymore to only have one life? Thank you for having us, Céline.
Interesting, thank you. Thank you very much. Very inspiring. Oliver, can you tell us a bit more about Cameo?
Yeah, I am the head of NFTs and Web3 at Cameo. Cameo, you may know us from the personalized video messaging app that you may have gotten a birthday message or a greeting or a pick-me-up or something like that from a celebrity of your choice. We have over 50,000 talent on our platform. And you know, how we have entered the Web3 space is very similar to how we operate in Web2. We allow talent to monetize what they can potentially do via video. And then for Web3, what we've decided to do is help the fastest growing, biggest part of Web3 in our opinion, which is artists in the space trying to understand this technology, launch their own NFT projects under our own Web3 umbrella. And so we've become talent CTO in a sense for a long time. This is 4.5 years in the making. And so we've entered the Web3 space in that way. And we also have our own NFT project or collection called Cameo Pass, which has 3 main artists. You may know the Doodles artist Burnt Toast. He's one of the 3 artists. And so our NFT collection gives you access to exclusive events that we hold with our talent on our platform. And then also virtual events and our NFT collections and drops that we do under our Cameo umbrella. So that is a little bit about us.
Really interesting, really. And I think that we have all seen what Cameo does with the videos and having a lot of fun with it. Thank you.
Hard rock.
Yeah.
Kenneth, can you tell us a bit more about Wendy?
Sure, indeed. Thank you for having us. So I'm representing Wendy. You could probably describe Wendy as that silent partner in the background where we sit as the layer in between the blockchain and your app or your brand. So we enable you to automatically onboard Web2 users into Web3 by providing an automatic wallet. We do that and sync it with 2 other pillars, being the NFT minting tools and then the marketplace, which can also act as a storefront within your own app. So we do have this red thread in between the 3 pillars, which allows you to build that infrastructure, and we remain the silent partner, but you allow your Web2 users to experience and Web3 experience on a Web2 basis. A good example of that is the partnership we have with Shopify, for example. This is where we enable all their merchants to onboard Web2 users first up, but sell NFT in their storefront, and the checkout experience is exactly as any Web2 users would purchase any good on a Web2 platform already. But this is a easy transitioning and also a seamless way for the experience of a Web2 users to move into Web3. And I think that's the essence of it. We established this business roughly 4 years ago. We are now 42. 1.5 years ago, we were 6 people. It tells a bit about the demand in the industry, so there's clearly a need for it. But the reason why we did enter the space was because we did see the complexity of MetaMask, for example. A good example, if you wish to purchase an NFT with MetaMask on OpenSea, for example, and you have no exposure to Web3 already, I think it's 13 steps you really need to go through. That's one thing. Another thing is you really need to get to grip with all the terms and technologies and wallet and sync and gas fees and all of these fancy terms which we take for granted. But if we really want to onboard Web2 users, I think we need to speak their language. We really need to do it on their terms. So that's what we're aiming for every day at Wendy.
Exactly. Easy onboarding and partnership will be definitely key in order to onboard Web2. Agree. Ty, can you tell us a bit about NFT and Chill podcast?
Yeah, my name is Tyler Greenfield. A lot of people know me as the mayor, but I host the NFT and Chill podcast. I'm also a consultant for a number of agencies helping companies, projects with Web3. And yeah, the podcast is in the top 3% in terms of like listenership globally. So what I do is I help with onboarding, education, work with a number of projects and organizations with like Twitter Spaces and like how-to stuff.
Thank you. And it's indeed interesting. Coming from a Web2 background, I'm quite surprised every day to see how marketing is different. And podcasts here play a big role. So
extremely,
really,
yeah.
really interesting.
I did come from e-commerce marketing in a Web2 sense, and now I do full-time Web3, and it's extremely different.
Interesting. Thank you very much for sharing. My first question will be about NFT. So one of the questions that we've heard a lot at Polarys from clients is that basically they always ask us, why NFT? And you want people not to focus so much on the technology, but more on the use case, right? How do you see that? How do you see why NFT are relevant for your business case? And how do you tackle this question with Web2 people?
Yeah, I mean, I can start, I guess. For Cameo, it's really simple. We've delivered something in Web 2 where somebody gets an experience they've never had before. You know, if you would have told me 10 years ago I could have requested Michael Owen to give my brother a birthday shout out, I would tell you you're crazy. And now we've made that possible with our video messaging. And to move it even more forward, what we've done is we've built this in real life. You know, owning an NFT of ours gives you access to our talent on like basically a bi-monthly basis via in real life events that we host and do. And so what it does is it creates that connection or bond with the talent that we have on our platform, and it easily kind of integrates what our platform is about and builds a community around it. And I think when you talk to a lot of people who are building NFTs and brands around NFTs, the big piece of the puzzle is that community building process and like, what is unique about your community over someone else's, and why would I want to be a part of it? And I don't think there's anything like what we do currently. And so that's where our value proposition comes in, really, when you talk about it. It's the community building prospect or aspect. And that's really the differentiator of what we do in comparison to a lot of other brands and companies out there.
Interesting.
Yeah, from like a more general standpoint, like why NFTs for, let's say, a Web 2 company or your business? NFTs provide, proof of ownership for one, and it's also a great way to monetize your community or fan base, or anything like that. Now, you can provide utility with that NFT, and the use case with that is, the sky's the limit. I mean, it's up to you. It's really an access point. Like it grants access to whatever the company is providing.
Just quickly to build on that, I 100% agree with the gentleman in terms of the utility which you as a brand, of course, for it to have meaning as well, you really want to make sure that you bring value to the end user, which then translates into the first part of your question, I believe, like why NFT? So if you do put yourself in the end consumer's point of view, you now have this ownership. So all the data which is within it, due to the blockchain technologies and all of that, that transfers into you. So this is, not to go off rail completely, but in the early stage, we do see an evolution in general, where we as an end consumer, we really want to be more in control of our purchasing habits, our power, our involvement with brands in general. We saw that with Uber, for example, years ago, giving that responsibility and ownership to the customer who wish to have that. That's slowly evolving into also you owning your data. And NFT is a perfect example of that. If we take the gaming space, I know there's a few of you people in here today. It's a way for people to go and engage with your game, for example. And if we take Counter-Strike as an example, we see young people spending a lot of money on skins for their weapons, etc., merchandise. At the end of the day, should they wish to not play that game anymore, they simply leave that pot of money with Counter-Strike. However, what you can now do is you can take these skins or NFTs and you can then resell them on the secondary market. So again, you're 100% in control of it. You have that ownership. You have that a proof of power, so to say, over your own rights. So I think that's equally important, that a brand offer that utility, but the end user also have that sense of ownership and can do with it what they want, actually.
Absolutely.
Completely agree. I want to tackle also the geographical part. So when you look at NFTs in the world, if you look at the US market compared to the European market, we are not speaking the same level of adoption, if you can say so. And it is especially true when in the US we already see, for example, a need for SMB to enter the Web3 world, where in Europe we are in the discussion of big players still. So how do you tackle that with your company? How do you tackle the geographical expansion? How do you see your product fitting into other markets?
So for us, we have a global market. We build the next generation of social media. Is there any guesses how many professional content creators there are in the world? Louder? Millions, yeah? There's 50 million professional content creators in the world. This is a market valued at over $100 billion, and it's actually on the same trajectory as the gig economy was a few years ago. So by 2025, they're saying that actually the creator economy is going to be the biggest market in the world. So for me, this is borderless. And this is the power with decentralized technologies, is that we no longer have to play in these countries. Our company is based in Sweden. I think we are probably one of the most advanced of the European nations. I mean, Stockholm is home to some of the biggest companies in the world. We actually have the highest number of unicorns per capita, second to Silicon Valley. So I'm from Australia originally, but I've been living in Europe for almost 5 years now. And I would say that Europeans are a few years behind the US, both in terms of adoption from the consumers, but also like an appetite to be part of this next generation of the internet. VCs are a lot more risk adverse in Europe, I would say. Even now with the changes in the market, we're still seeing US VCs actually be a lot more active and ready to take more risk, bigger valuations, bigger ticket sizes. It's funny, like amongst entrepreneurs, there's some sort of sentiment like European VCs are like spreadsheet VCs and US VCs are like ready to like attack, you know? And this is super true from my experience as an entrepreneur. But I mean, like how we use NFTs, going back to your previous question, I mean, how many of you here on social media? Like pretty much everyone, right? Have you ever earned
At least you should be.
Have you ever earned any money from it? Or have you just earned like a few thousand love hearts? So weird that you've like dedicated your life to building these other platforms owned by billionaires for the sake of some love hearts every day. So the power of NFTs for social allows you to take back full control of your content and actually earn back the more you help build another person's platform like Logcast, the more you earn back. It's funny, like I get to go to a lot of these conferences, and even like the social networks that I meet from Web3 entrepreneurs, they still follow this like Zuckerberg's layer one, like likes, followers, feeds. Like, have not we learned as a group of people that this doesn't work? So with NFTs, it allows you to like get rid of that middleman, take back ownership of your content, and earn forever. In our case, a thought or an experience that you have, you can earn on that for the entirety of time, right? NFT is forever. It's immutable, uncensorable, it's on-chain forever. So if I shared this experience with my community and it became more popular, a lot of people wanted to experience it and tune in, then I'm able to earn back on that, and that's pretty powerful.
I'd just like to touch on, why NFT. She kind of touched on it as well. I had a really interesting talk with Mark Cuban about 2 years ago, and it was really interesting when you think of the dynamic. When you're 20 to 30 years old, that age demographic, 20 to 35, what's the most valuable thing that you own right now? It's likely not a house. You're not there yet. It may be a car, but most likely you have a car payment. And touching on the whole social media aspect, it's this. It's your phone. And if you believe that that's just going to continue, right? The ages 13, 14, 15, 16, the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds that now have cellular phones and devices and are on social media, then you truly start to see where this sense of ownership can really come from, right? And I think that's like a really powerful conversation to be had here about Web3 and NFTs. We may not be even close. Everyone says we're early. Well, we are early. Because the kids who are really going to be using this technology are 8, 9, 10, 11, or they're just growing up. And when you start to like put all the pieces together, it really is powerful when you think about the potential of what's to come.
The impact we can have, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, like you asked about the global market and what NFTs, DeFi, cryptocurrency, what it does is it brings the entire world on the same playing field. So people who are in underdeveloped nations, oppressed nations, they can then, at least from a monetary standpoint, they can have a little bit more freedom. That's just how I see DeFi.
Thank you.
Humans just want to have fun. And NFTs are fun, right? It's like you collect things. It's like goes back to like I was collecting Pokemon cards when I was 11, It's just fun, actually. I think we need to be less serious, and this is how we onboard the next 3 billion people to DeFi and crypto and Web3. It's actually just through entertainment, actually. So as a group of people, I would really like us to focus more on the fun and the sense of belonging and community, because that's how we bring the next 3 billion people into crypto.
And education.
Yeah.
We talked a lot your specific industries, but what are for you the best use case for NFT? If we think about, for example, real estate, you can say it democratizes investment for people because they can. We were saying between 20 and 25 you cannot, but maybe with NFT you could have a living room in an apartment, right? So what are for you, except of course your own use case, the other use case that you see relevant for the industry with NFT?
Personally, I think as far as for use case, transfer of ownership is probably one of the best use cases you can have, and proof of ownership. That's what's going to propel this industry into $100 trillion industry in 5 to 10 years. When Rolex makes a watch, it's one of a kind. So shouldn't they mint an NFT to go along with that watch that's one of a kind, so that there's a log attached to that watch? And also that you can prove that it's authentic. And when that ownership transfers on the secondary market, it has that NFT that can verify that ownership. And also the log of what is happening, if the watch has been fixed, if a face has been replaced, all of that goes on the NFT's log. And you can do that not only with watches, with clothes, with hats, with shoes, with cars, absolutely anything. Proof of ownership.
Yeah, just to touch on that, the physical-digital combination really hasn't been touched, I think. We've seen glimpses of it, we've seen iterations of it, but it's not even close to where it probably will be in the next 5 years. And I think that's the key to I was chatting at a jewelry conference like a month or two ago, and all these jewelers are like looking to authenticate their jewelry, and they have to go somewhere. Like, just think about the process that you have to go through right now in order to potentially sell an item like a Rolex. Mm-hmm. You're not just selling it on eBay as like Rolex, and you have like no box, and it's just sitting there. Like, nobody's going to pay a premium for that. What they're paying for is that it's authentic, and so like, how are you doing that? Okay, well, you're going to somebody, whether it's in your city or country or it's outside of that, and you're shipping it to them. They're verifying that it's actually an authentic piece or physical item. You're paying them a bunch of money to do so. With NFTs, this is just, it's so much more streamlined. And on top of that, you see the going rate for it. I could go to eBay right now and I could search Rolex watches, and there'd be one that's $50,000 and one that's $20,000, and I would not have any clue what the differences are. I have no idea.
Or if it's real.
Or if it's real, or if it's fake. And then the process of shipping it, receiving it, making sure it's in the same condition, like all these different things that you kind of put into play here, and then you add the NFT factor, and it just gets much simpler, right? If there was a database of all the Rolexes that have ever been authenticated, and you could see the going rate for one just right there, it's 10 times easier for the consumer to be able to purchase. And it's also, for Rolex, it's great data. It's the most true data you could possibly have. You know exactly what models are selling and what models aren't, and who's selling it and why they're selling. Like, there's so many different ways that you could potentially use it from that physical to digital sense. And so for me, adding on to his point, like, I really think that's the best use case that I can think of currently for NFTs, is just that connection. And that could be a house, that could be a car, that could be anything that you could possibly own. But that power of the technology to be able to like scale this very seamlessly, I think that's the powerful play.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say something very different to these guys.
That's great. We want that.
Woo. I'm going to say decentralized finance is the biggest opportunity, right? And what NFTs play in DeFi. There are, I believe, 2 billion underbanked or unbanked people in the world. And what I mean by that is people who do not have access to a bank account because of things like identity reasons. A bank won't open one for them because they have an untrustworthy profile. And what NFTs give us the chance to do is actually remove that and help people become more bankless. I mean, if you think of South Africa, for example, it has the highest unemployed youth rate in the entire world. For 2 reasons: the inability for them to become banked, and second of all, actually access to data. It's not that there's no jobs for them, it's for 2 reasons. The skin colors don't trust each other in South Africa, but there's also not any access to data. So they have on average like 20 megabytes per week. So they can view these like job platforms, but they can't upload their CV, they can't apply for a job. And what NFT does is, like, I have one friend who has a project called Syntropy, you guys should check it out. They are decentralizing access to telecommunications data. So me, through the power of NFT, I can have like 100 megabytes per week, and then I can like bump you over like 20 megabytes, I can bump you 30 megabytes. And this is what NFTs and the underlying blockchain technology are going to do for the world. So I would say DeFi is our biggest opportunity.
It's interesting, and indeed I think that we already saw that with fintech before. It's like they are a great tool to do financial inclusion, although it must be done correctly. If you look at El Salvador, for example, there are a lot of people who went to the street and saying it was, you see what I mean? So the technology, I think everyone believes, but it has to be thought well in order for everyone to get onboarded. And financial inclusion, it's particularly true. I think when you look at the mobile penetration ratio in each market, if you look at that, you see that actually when sometimes we have the false idea that one country will not be tech inclined enough to adopt something, it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, but this is causing the biggest shift in wealth humanity has ever seen. Yeah. Because the countries like El Salvador, Venezuela, Argentina that were forced to adopt cryptocurrency because they had no other option, right? We are so lucky. I mean, I'm not sure where everyone is from, but I'm from Stockholm, where I can buy a loaf of bread this week, and next week I can buy a loaf of bread for the same price. That is not the case in Argentina, right? Their money in their bank account was was just completely diving. So they were forced to look at crypto. So actually, more advanced nations like Sweden and European countries, in 10 years, I'm very worried. Because with the regulation, with lack of adoption, we're going to see the biggest transfer of wealth humanity's ever seen.
It's actually a good segue to my last question. And it's more about the regulatory landscape that you guys encounter with your businesses. So, and I think here making the difference between crypto and NFT is really important, especially in Europe, because with MiCA, they are still discussing whether NFT should be included or not. So how do you tackle that from a regulatory point of view? How have you tackled NFT, and how do you integrate that in your roadmap, actually?
Well, it's going to be a very short answer. As you said yourself, MiCA can't even figure it out right now. If they don't set any guidelines, regulatory frameworks for us to apply with, we can only do so much to enforce it. However, what we can do, we can make sure we always stay on top of the latest. What are the discussion points? Can we contribute to those conversations somehow? But as you said, they don't even know themselves at this point here. But we can make sure we stay as top on the topic as possible. So the way we're doing it, we do have discussions group, also a bit more in the political way, where we make sure we do have access to information once they do come out. We are located in Belgium. Belgium, I believe, is one of the strictest, so to say, in Europe. So we're fortunate in that sense that once it's being rolled out, European-wise or globally coming, I think we are in a good position to be ahead of the game in that sense. Yeah, so it's a very open question, and you can keep studying on this every day, but until there are these rules, regulations, guidelines, legislations in place, there's only so much you can actually do here, because we have prepared, I think it's for 5 or 6 different scenarios right now, and whatever direction we or they wish to take it, we can apply with automatically. So prepare yourself best way for multiple scenarios, so once they do come, you can flip the switch.
Yeah, I'd just add to that. I think, like you mentioned, roadmap. It's pretty hard to actually build a roadmap if you don't know what is potentially coming, right? And so this whole strategy of like pivoting, being able to pivot very quickly, being able to be have multiple plans in place, I think is really important. And I think ultimately, I think all of us here would probably say that regulation should, like, we would like that to just happen, right? I don't know.
Better now.
I haven't met too many people who just let, you know, because quite frankly, there's a lot of people playing on it's an unlevel playing field right now. There are Web2 businesses that have legal teams and a bunch of things behind them that are unfortunately not able to participate as fully as potential, you know, NFT projects that have just come out of the blue and things like that. And so I think while it's great to see the different sort of mediums and platforms and things that have grown and evolved, it would be nice, I believe, to see regulation at some point across the board where there is a level playing field for any business to understand what they can and can't do. And we're fortunate to have a great legal team. I'm sure most of us here have legal teams behind us, and you know, they're up to date on some of the regulatory issues and things like that. And so, to his point, it's you know, it's not easy, but having 3 or 4 different plans in place, ready to go. That way, if something does change or something is announced, you have that. That I think is the most important aspect of it right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting because indeed, in order to onboard Web2, this is one of the kind of fear that they have, if we can say it like this. And I would say there is progression. And what we see, for example, is that here in the UK, they just accepted that NFT could be in courts considered as legal proceedings of a case. So this is very good. I think that they tend today to rely to existing regulation and just to look at the underline and say, if this underline is this, let's refer to that. But yeah, it's interesting, and we need to indeed follow up everything that is related to that. Cool. I think we are exactly on time, actually. I'm looking at the heads up, yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining here and sharing everything. And yeah, I'll let you guys network.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.